In this video, we're going to do something I haven't tried yet on the channel, but I may be doing more if it goes well. I put a Q&A story on my Instagram and asked for questions that I could answer. So here are the answers to the questions that you asked. I'm doing this in part because I'm waiting for parts for a couple new builds I'm working on, and also because YouTube won't let me show guns or anything to do with them in my live streams anymore. So here we are. Super quick, the best way to support the channel is by becoming a member of the kit page, where I provide discount codes and organize all the links to everything I talk about on the channel. Huge thank you to the sponsors of the channel, TA Targets, one of the best metal target manufacturers out there. They make fantastic and innovative product. And of course, Optics Planet. Use code GMEN at checkout or use the better code on the kit page. No full disclosure today, as there's no specific thing I'm reviewing. Jumping right in with question number 1. This is from Joey. What is your favorite build you've done so far? So funny enough, it's got to be either my lever action build, which I just really enjoyed shooting and I still love to this day, or it is a build that I haven't showed you yet but is coming soon to the channel. This is a new and improved ARX light fighter, and it is absolutely a phenomenal weapon. I'm so excited to show it off and show you what it's capable of. All right, next question. Best all-around first AR to buy/build. So in my opinion, I think everybody should own a 16-inch AR-15 chambered in 5.56. I get a lot of questions if you should do 300 blackout or 5.56 first, and honestly I think 5.56 is the better route to go for your first gun, only because 5.56 is less expensive to train with. It's a little more capable at longer distances, and I would say overall it's a really good start to getting into the industry. I know you asked about buying versus building. I think if you're mechanically inclined, it is a good idea to build your first AR. That way you know every single part that goes into the gun, and that's going to give you an advantage later when you have a malfunction or a jam. You can target things better. That'll also help you because as you use your firearm, you're going to figure out what you like, what you don't like, and what you want to switch out. And that's just a lot easier when you know everything that you put into the gun. But I personally really don't think there's anything wrong with going out and buying a full arrow or a full BCM gun. Those are great, really inexpensive builds that will get you into the industry, get you training, and that's really what matters more. So I would say go buy a full BCM rifle if you just want to get into the industry and just start training with it. And of course, I want to add to that, everything is subjective and relative to the budget that you have. So if you have a higher budget, maybe go out and buy a little bit better of a firearm. Go buy an ARX light fighter or a Daniel Defense, something that's great and it's going to last a long time. If you're on more of a budget, Arrow and BCM, it's going to get you into the industry, it'll get you training, and you'll always be able to upgrade from there. Okay, moving on. Thoughts on the Surefire RC2 Mini? Yeah, I think it's a great can. Surefire puts out really high quality products in my opinion. The RC2, the original one, is a really high quality can, will last you a long time. So it's probably really good. I myself buy a lot of Silencer Co cans. I think Silencer Co makes a lot of really great stuff. I've really loved their Velos line. I'm going to do a couple reviews on those in the future, but I do have the Surefire 300 SPS. That was my first can, and after all these years of using it, it's still running great. Moving on to the next question. Clip-on thermal or dedicated thermal scope, and what do you recommend? This is a great question. It really just depends on what the setup is going to be used for mainly. I personally am a fan of clip-on. That's what I have on this next build that I'm going to show you guys, and I'll show a top down here. The clip-on that I use personally is the Sting IR 640, and I love it because it sits on a flip mount, and that allows me to run it on whatever build I would need night capabilities for. The Sting IR is honestly a phenomenal thermal optic. It gets the job done really well. So I personally am a fan of clip-ons. However, I do have dedicated thermal scopes. If I'm using it specifically as a night hunting rifle, I have no problem leaving it on the build and having that build specifically just be for night hunting. Now, not everybody has that capability, which is why I do recommend the flip mounted Sting IR over anything. You can take it off when you don't need it, put it back on when you do. Though it does require an LPVO in order to work. So that's the only thing. If you already have an LPVO, I would definitely get the flip Sting IR, or if you're looking for just a dedicated night hunting rifle, there's a lot of great thermal scopes out there. I also did do a review on the Rattler version 2, and that scope is absolutely phenomenal. Anyway, final answer, Sting IR flip is the way to go in my opinion. Next question here, is upgrading to a higher end lower worth it? Or is upgrading parts on an Arrow enough? So this really depends on what you want to get out of the lower. There are some benefits to throwing more money at a higher tier or higher quality lower. Higher quality is kind of a funny word because generally they're all made out of the same thing. What you really add are features when you go with a more expensive lower. Generally, these features include something like like ambi controls. Sometimes you have a certain spring and detent system that allows for tighter tolerances. You also might get a machined flared magwell, which is also a nice feature. Personally would say in a general sense, the ambi controls is kind of the most important feature that you could get on a more expensive lower receiver. But in a general sense, if you don't really care about more features, I would just stick to a standard lower and spend that money maybe on a nicer optic or a flashlight, something else that will benefit the build overall. All right, next question here. What would be your ideal upper, lower, or full build for a pistol with $1,000 budget? So I did do a $1,500 build and everything was fully custom, parts from all different companies. I do understand the appeal for a $1,000 rifle, and I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that, but it's hard for me because I do want to suggest that you just kind of bite the bullet and get higher quality stuff that's going to last longer and be more reliable. And I know there's so many people who are going to say, I built my rifle for $500 and it's just as reliable as the one that you built. And that very well may be true. Good for you. I really hope that it does work the way that you say it does. But I personally think there is a lot of merit in saving, investing, and putting your money into something that's going to last longer. So $1,500 is kind of my minimum for building out a long-lasting great rifle, though you can get closer to the $1,000 mark. And the way that I would do that would be buying a $300 or $200 BCM lower that's complete and an $800-ish BCM complete upper. That should give you a complete BCM gun for around $1,100, give or take after tax. And this is kind of the lowest quality that I would recommend personally. I think BCM is a really good company to go with, or Aero Precision. I don't necessarily dislike Palmetto State Armory. I do think that they make some pretty good stuff. So if you're really on a budget, you can definitely go with PSA and still have something that's going to last. But I would really recommend just saving up a little bit more money, maybe going with Aero. You get a little more features, a little more quality consistency, or BCM for a really quality checked rifle that is battle tested and is going to do really well for you. Okay, next question. Cody asks, Canik versus Glock. I mean, if you watch my channel, you know that I am a Glock guy. I haven't shot a lot of Caniks, but I have shot a few, and surprisingly, Canik does shoot pretty well. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not a fan of Canik. I really don't know enough about them in order to give an accurate opinion, but what I can tell you is that I really like Glock, so it's a Glock for me. Next question, which is also about Canik. What do I think of them? I don't know, whenever I think of a Canik, I think of a gas pedal, a super long barrel with ports in it, and like a 30 round magazine. So honestly, I think I just need to build maybe 1 or 2 Caniks before I give a better opinion on them. I have shot a couple. I think they shoot really smooth, but overall, none of them have been appetizing enough for me to want to build one on the channel. So if there's enough interest, maybe I will build one. On to the next question. Favorite rifle caliber? That's a good question. I could be typical and just say 5.56, but I would probably have to say 300 Blackout. So if I was taking cost and all of these other variables out of it, I would say the most fun caliber to shoot is subsonic 300 Blackout. Moving on to the next question. How is life treating you, friend? Thanks for asking, man. Shout out to Train with Purpose Official. I've been using a lot of their products on my Glocks. I really love their stuff. They make a great trigger shoe that I've talked about in various videos. But yeah, to answer the question, I've been hitting some bumps these last couple of years. One really big one that kind of turned my life upside down, but things are gradually getting really good. But I'm grateful for God and my family and all of my friends who have kept me afloat, and the community that I've been able to build on YouTube, giving me purpose, helping me to have something to look forward to, trying to make videos every week. It's all been really good. So I would say things are on the up. Moving on to the next question. What is the best way to tune my rifle for an RC2 suppressor? I have a mid-length FSB gas system. So this is a really good question, and there's a lot of variables here that I actually don't have that are kind of important. The barrel length is really important. The buffer weight is really important. And sometimes it can even go into the spring that you're using, the ammo choice. So all of those kind of create the factors of good gas tuning. Using a suppressor adds a lot more back pressure, which can increase the cycling speed. So generally what you're going to want to do, especially if it's a shorter build, is add a higher buffer weight, maybe an H2 or H3. And then I would make sure that you have an adjustable gas block, and you want your brass ejection to be at 3 or 4 o'clock for a well optimized gas tune. If you want your gun to be the most reliable, generally what you want to do is do a battle tune, and that means you can take your suppressor off and it's still going to cycle properly. You adjust until your brass is hitting in the 3 or or almost 2 o'clock position, and then just make sure you're testing, making sure you're taking the can off, shooting a full mag, putting it back on, making sure everything is functioning properly. So that's a tough one. Without all the variables, I can't give you specifics, but that's where I would start. Moving on to the next question, when are you coming by Next Shot Precision in Orem? I need to make it out there. I totally forgot that you had your store up and running, so I'd love to come by and visit. Maybe I'll make it out next week. Moving on to the next question, best alternate companies to RPP for lever action mods. On the lever action build that I did, I used Midwest Industries and Mad Pig Customs, and both of those guys make phenomenal things for lever action builds specifically. So I can definitely recommend, go ahead and check out my lever action build. Mad Pig Customs and Midwest Industries did an amazing job. Moving on to the next question, when are you going to bring more 2011s to the show? That's a great question. I do want to bring on more 2011s. I don't know when that's going to happen. I do though have a 1911 that I'm excited to review. So though it's not 2011, I am going to be doing a 1911. Moving on here, any plans on doing a full night vision setup video going from budget to Gucci? Cherry, what's up, man? Thanks for asking. I do have plans to do night vision. I'm working with Optics Planet to get some dual tubes sent over, so I will keep you posted on how those go. I don't know about Gucci yet. I've been working with a couple different companies, so hopefully I can get some high-end night vision on the channel. But for now, I do have some mid-tier coming in the mail, so I'm excited for that. I'll be going over a helmet setup and kind of what I recommend and why. Moving along here, is there one specific piece you use on all of your rifles? If no, what piece would you use for all? That's a good question. I would say the Radiant Talon safety selector is probably the piece that I change out the most. I love the 45-degree throw, and it's just one of the most comfortable safety selectors I've found, and it's really reliable. I also generally change out the charging handle with X2 Dev Group's Jackal. It's one of my favorite charging handles. I just think they're phenomenally made. So when it comes to like small pieces like that, those are generally the two that I switch out. Moving right along, if you could only keep one of your handguns, which one would it be? Oh man, I would probably say my battle ready Glock 45. That's like kind of an all-purpose. I could conceal it if I wanted to, but it's a really great full-sized handgun, and I have had absolutely zero issues with it. So if I had to keep only one, Glock 45. Moving on, question from Brady, do you own any old / collectible guns? So the answer is kind of no. I'm not personally into older collectibles, but I guess if I was going to own one, it would be a Colt 1911, and I of course would also love to have an M1 Garand. So if I could own two kind of relic-y guns, a 1911 and an M1 would be awesome. Moving along, looking to build a long-range gun but can't decide a caliber, 300 PRC, 7mm PRC, or 6.5 PRC. So for me personally, I would go with 6.5 only because of relevancy. It's pretty much as prevalent as 308, only it flies a little better, it hits a little harder. So in my opinion, I would say 6.5 is kind of the way to go. I also am a little biased because I have a 6.5 build coming to the channel soon, so stay tuned for that. Moving right along to Die Free Co's question, any Kung Fu grips in your future? Yes, there are. I am excited to throw them on a couple builds I have in the future, so stay tuned for those. Moving on to the next question, can you help me understand the process to get a suppressor for my 9mm pistol? Yes, it's relatively easy these days. It really does just depend on which state you live in. If you live in a free state where you're allowed to own suppressors, it's really easy. Silencer Shop is a company that does make this really easy, and there are a lot of gun stores out there now who actually have a kiosk in store where you can get your fingerprints done and everything. So the basic process is you want to go and create an account on Silencer Shop. As soon as you do that, you can register as either an individual or a trust. I personally do recommend that you set up a trust. Heaven forbid that you die, your suppressors don't go back to the government. They will stay within the trust, and any co-owners of your trust will be able to have access to the suppressors and use them as you would. If you register them just under your name as an individual, if you die, they go back to the ATF to be destroyed. After all, your account is created on the Silencer Shop website, and this isn't the only website that you can go through. I just think that they built one of the most streamlined processes. I would head to the gun store that you're planning on buying the suppressor from. They have to be an FFL SOT in order to supply suppressors to you, and that's where you can put 50% down on your suppressor as a layaway item, and after you finish the paperwork that is required, the gun shop should submit all of your paperwork online, and that process is fairly simple. The gun shop should take care of everything for you there. As soon as they hear back and get the approved tax stamp from the ATF, you pay for the rest of your suppressor and you can take it home with the paperwork and tax stamp. Moving right along, any new merch coming or in the works? Patches? Those are great questions. I have been working on a couple new designs myself for shirts. I did update the website with some new merch a couple months ago, but probably by now it's a little outdated. Got a couple things I'm working on, but maybe I'll try to push that through a little faster. If anything, I would love to get patches done first. I am really interested in getting a team patch done, so we'll see where that goes. I just need to figure out the best way to have them manufactured. I want the quality to be good, the design to look really great, so all of those things I'll be working on in the next couple weeks. Okay, moving on to the next question, M&P 2.0 build. I really do want to do this, so I'm going to look into getting one. I do have quite a few builds in the queue right now, but I would love to get an M&P 2.0. I'll keep you posted on that. Next question, how did you get into firearms? So everything kind of started for me when I wanted to be more self-sufficient, wanted to be able to protect myself. If you're a common sense person, generally you want to mitigate risk by taking on the responsibility yourself, and that's kind of where it started for me. I knew that the best way to keep myself and those that I care about safe was to take on that responsibility myself, and I was lucky because I had a brother, shout out Josh, who was already way into firearms, and he was able to guide me in the right direction. He also worked at a gun shop, and so my first gun was bought with his help. After I bought my first gun, I was really interested in carrying it, and my brother told me, if you're gonna carry a gun, then you should be proficient and really good with it. So I started training with him, shooting with him as much as I could, and after we started training together for a while, I started to feel good enough to start carrying, and during training, I kind of figured out what I liked and didn't like, and I started to build out guns the way that I liked them. Building out guns to my liking is kind of where I started to really dive deep into the firearms world, and really it's because of the channel that I have as many as I do. I really wouldn't own as many as I have if it weren't for the channel, but I do have a passion for training and wanting to keep people safe as well as myself. I've also been lucky enough to build an awesome community, so all of those things kind of kept me going in the gun industry, and it's been a really cool experience being able to do this. Moving on to the next question, I'm buying my BCM upper today. I've now got a lower and an upper. What should be next in my build? So I'd first invest in some really good glass. I would get an optic. Depends on what barrel length that you chose, but I would go with either an LPVO or just a simple red dot. I definitely want to emphasize how important it is to get a good optic. Your aiming device is one of the most important parts of your rifle, so make sure you get a good one. As soon as you get a good one, buy a sling and a flashlight, more ammo, and you're good to go training. Moving on to the next question, what can I have in my medic mini pouch attached to my vest? So one of the most important things that I think you should have in a medic pouch is, number one, a tourniquet. You want to have something that can stop bleeding. Generally a tourniquet for appendages is the way to go, and my buddy Easton has taught me this. You want to be able to also seal the box, so any type of equipment that can help you seal a gunshot wound to the chest is helpful, and I would also include some type of gauze to pack wounds. One other thing I would maybe keep is a pair of scissors in order to cut away clothing so you can accurately assess your situation, but those are the things that I would keep on hand. Pretty much anything to stop bleeding. Moving on to the next question, this guy had two. Got a job for a young Canadian content creator. I wish I had something for you, man. I don't, but I do want to answer your other question. What do you think of airsoft for people who can't get guns? I do think there are a lot of aspects that translate over really well. Of course, nothing really compares to the recoil and functionality of a firearm shooting live rounds, but airsoft does have a lot of things that you can carry over. So yes, do airsoft if you can't get real guns. Thanks for your question, man. Moving on, sniper builds in the future. Yes, I do have a couple bolt action rifles coming that I'm really excited for, so stay tuned for those. One in particular is I'm going to build out a SIG Spear in 6.5 Creedmoor. I know that gun got a ton of hate at the beginning when it first came out, but I think they made some really amazing improvements to it, and I'm excited to show you guys what I found. around. Moving on to the next question, which is a favorite build that you have not shown in the videos? I guess I'll show you another sneak peek of the 300 Blackout build that's coming to the channel soon. It's definitely a higher tier rifle, but it's going to be awesome. And I personally think you can take some inspo from this one and build it a lot cheaper if you wanted to. So stay tuned for this one. The 300 Blackout's going to be awesome. Moving on to the next question, any PCC SMG build videos incoming? Yes, there are. One I am really excited about from Daniel Defense. You've probably seen their PCC that they released a little bit ago. I'm definitely getting my hands on one of those here pretty soon, and I'm excited to review it. Moving right along, can you update some of the build list? Some items are no longer being made. Yes, can you send me a DM or an email letting me know which parts that you're looking for specifically? I am absolutely dedicated to making sure that you can get the products that I recommend. It's impossible for me to just go through every page of my website and make sure all the links are working. So just let me know which ones you're looking for specifically, and I will get those updated as soon as I can. Moving right along, what is your favorite build? That is such a tough question. I have so many that I really love. The ones that I haven't shown yet are probably some of my favorites and the ones that I'm most excited for. The Flat Dark Earth ARX Light Fighter, that's right here. This one I'm really excited for. Obviously, the 300 Blackout I'm way hyped on. I loved my lever action build. That one was amazing. And probably my Glock 45 and 43X. Those are both some of my favorite handguns. Moving right along, would you ever do a giveaway on a build that you have done or will do? Yes, I can say I definitely do want to do a giveaway. If I do a giveaway though, I want it to be absolutely amazing. So I'm going to get in touch with a couple of the companies that I love personally to see if I can get a rifle or a handgun put together in a spectacular way. And now that you say that, I'm going to work even harder on getting that done sooner. Stay tuned for that. Yes, a giveaway will be coming. Moving on to the next question. What is your current battle belt and plate carrier setup? I actually do have a full video on this setup. It hasn't changed since the video. So for the sake of time, I will link that video above. I do though have a new battle belt setup that I'm going to be sharing soon. So if you already watched the multicam video that I have up, here's a sneak peek at the OD green setup that I have coming to the channel soon. Set up almost the same as my other belt, and I do that because when I train I want to make sure everything's in pretty much the same position so it's the same across the board. The only thing that I really switched out is the type and brand of knife that I'm using. I've got a double pistol mag carrier instead of the single, and I added handcuffs to the setup. All right, moving on to the next question. Best gun belt holster combo for someone new to shooting? That's a great question. I started out with a T-Rex Arms Ragnarok and leg shroud setup. It's really basic. It's not the most comfortable, but it'll work really well, and it's not super expensive. So I personally would probably head in that direction. Okay, moving right along. What are your top 3 suppressors? My favorite suppressor that I own is probably the Silencer Co. Velos. It's a phenomenal flow-through can, really good at what it does. So the Silencer Co. Velos, amazing. My second favorite can is probably the Surefire 300 SPS. It's a 30 cal can. You can use it on 5.56, 300 Blackout, 308. It's incredibly quiet with 300 Blackout. One of the quietest cans I've ever heard with 300 Blackout. Amazing, robust, high quality, just a phenomenal can overall. And the third one is actually another 30 cal can. This is a titanium can adapted for Silencer Co. muzzle devices. The brand is a new one who actually reached out to me and wanted me to try some of their stuff. It's called the Anechoic, and I hope I'm saying that right. They make some actually really impressive, really light suppressors. So I'm excited to talk more about these, but those are probably my top 3 right now. Moving on to the next question. When are you doing a bolt gun series? Really soon. I've got one that I can't talk about yet, and then the Sig Cross. I'm super excited about the Sig Cross. I think it's going to be an amazing bolt action rifle, so stay tuned for that. But yes, long range and bolt action are coming to the channel for sure. Moving on to the next question here. Any suggestions for my first rifle? I do go over this in various videos. If you watch all of my videos, you'd probably get a really good idea of what you would want to build and maybe what you would want to avoid. I generally point people into the direction of a 16-inch barrel that deregulates your entire firearm depending on where you live, and it allows you to add any accessories that you want. You can have a stock, a vertical foregrip, you can do whatever you want to the rifle. rifle. A 16-inch AR is a very capable firearm. They're relatively comfortable to shoot and anybody can do it. So outside of context and without being able to ask you further questions, those are the things that I would look for. Moving right along, what's your opinion on SIG? I want to hate them. This is a really funny question because I was just in contact with SIG and I'm actually going to be reviewing a ton of SIG stuff in the future here, so I'll be able to give you a better answer. But this is the funny thing, is I wanted to hate SIG as well. Then I started shooting and training with a bunch of their guns, and honestly I get why people like them. It's kind of hard to hate them. Are they extremely expensive? Yeah. Do they always test their Gen 1 products on their consumer base, and is it super frustrating? Absolutely. So for those reasons alone, I can definitely see where you're coming from. Besides that, some of the horror stories with SIG, but with all of the SIG guns that I've tested so far, honestly, they're really good. And I'm excited to get more of a variety on the channel so I can actually see for myself where I stand with SIG, but so far it's kind of hard to hate them. They make a really innovative and good product overall. Moving right along to the next question, what pair of gloves do you recommend for the range? I have both Mechanics and Pig, and I can recommend both of those. They are phenomenal gloves. Okay, moving right along, best upper under $1,000. I would say $1,000 is a really good budget for an upper. If you can only get one and it has to be complete, I would personally go with a Daniel Defense DDM4 version 7 16-inch 5.56. You can pick one of these up on Optics Planet for $1,059, and if you're a kit page member, you can get this for under $1,000. That's probably going to be one of the best upper receivers you could get for the money. If you want a shorter barrel length, you could go with the Daniel Defense Mark 18. You're going to spend a little bit over $1,000, but again, if you're a kit page member, that might be worth it if you're in the $1,200 range. Moving on to the next question, what's your recommended long range build for targets, firearm, bipod, etc.? We'll be shooting a little bit of long range with this new build, the ARX Light Fighter, and it is actually a pretty solid setup for distance shooting. I would say within 700 yards. So for the firearm, you want to make sure that you have an extremely good barrel on there. The ARX Light Fighter has one of the nicest barrels I've ever seen on an AR-15. I highly recommend them. Kit page members get an exclusive discount on these barrels. They are incredible. I actually have a new video coming out on these, and I think there's a question in here asking about those, so I'll talk about it in a second. Anyway, you just want to make sure you have a really high quality barrel. The optic that I'm running on here is a 1:10. It's the Razor HD, and this is a phenomenal optic. The ammo is the other most important thing that you're going to be using. You want to use high velocity, heavy ammo that cuts through wind a little bit better. And then I did just find a new bipod setup that I'm going to talk about for this build specifically, but I wanted something that was quick detach that I could run in both M-LOK and quad rail configurations. So I kind of came up with a good option for that. This is an awesome bipod that I'll talk a little bit more when this build comes out, but it has a quick detach for quad rails, and then I added these Sylvan Arms quad rail to M-LOK adapters, and that allows me to use this on both M-LOK and quad rails, and it's quick detach, so I can take it on and off if I don't want to run a heavy bipod all the time. So this is one of the best bipod options that I have found so far, and I'll tell you more about that in the video when it comes out. I'm excited for this build in particular because it's a great general purpose rifle. It can reach out distances, but it's also good close range, so make sure you stay tuned for this build. It's going to be awesome. All right, moving on to the next question. What do you suggest for my first build? Should I do a 5.56 14.5-inch or a 300 blackout pistol? So I did kind of talk about this at the beginning of the video, but just to go over a couple things, I don't think there's anything wrong with going either way. One of the routes is a lot more expensive. So when it comes down to price, if you don't really care about the money that you're going to spend on 300 blackout in order to train, I personally really like 300 blackout. It's a fairly capable round. It's really fun to shoot, and I think you'll really enjoy it. 5.56 on the other hand, I think will allow you to get to the range more, train more, and I really don't think you would regret going with a 14.5 5.56, especially for your first one. If I could go back, I probably wouldn't build a 300 blackout first. I would go 5.56. So that's what I think I would have to recommend for you. Moving on to the next question, what makes you decide on the kit you wear and buy? That is a great question. I do a bunch of research. I really do my best to watch a bunch of reviews on the things that I'm interested in. I usually start out with a simple Google search to see what people have been liking lately, and then I generally start watching YouTube videos so I can see some real life experience and what people enjoy or dislike. And after I feel like I've done enough research, and generally because I have the channel as a resource, I'm really lucky to be able to try a variety of things and pick the best one that I like the most. And that's usually how it goes. With the kit that I wear in particular, UF Pro was a booth at SHOT Show, and after meeting them, seeing the design of their product, the quality of it and everything, I was already pretty sold. So as soon as I had my first pair of UF Pro camo, I honestly stopped looking. It is phenomenal stuff. As for the rest of my kit, like the belt that I wear and my plate carrier, it's all just based on recommendations that I have and what other people are liking at the time. But it does generally include just quite a bit of trial and error. Moving on to the next question, best advice for your minimalist style of photography on Instagram. Yeah, so a couple tips on that. I would eliminate variables. I think the two main things that I nailed in order to get the minimalist style that I have is a plain backdrop with controlled lighting. That allows me to have a really consistent look, and the plain backdrop really simplifies everything and makes it feel a lot more minimal. I also do have my presets listed on the shop page of my website, so if you're looking to achieve the same colors and style of editing, then you can buy my presets. But yeah, all of the photography that I do is done in a studio. It's all done on the table right here. I've got a big old key light. I actually have a video called my gun room tour where you can see my full studio setup, and feel free to copy it if you want. Okay, moving right along. Do you budget for gear monthly or specifically per project? So for this, I can only tell you what I recommend. Because I have the channel as a resource, it's just wildly different. I'm so grateful for the sponsors of my channel so I can review them for you guys, but I really don't have to budget much for the builds that I show on the channel. How I would do this though, if I were in your shoes, is I would budget specifically per project. Like let's say if I had a new AR build, I would start with the lower receiver or maybe the barrel. I would list out all the parts that I wanted to get for the build and their prices, maybe from the cheapest to the most expensive, and I would go through and just purchase one part at a time based on what my budget was for that period of time. That way I would know I'd finish the rifle at some point exactly the way that I want it, and it eliminates me having to blow a bunch of money all at once. So that's personally what I would recommend, and you can apply that for a handgun, shotgun, AR, whatever you want. All right, moving on to the next question. Do I have an all-in-one rifle? It sounds like I need to make this ARX Light Fighter video a little sooner than I thought, but this is definitely what I would recommend as an all-in-one rifle. The 16-inch barrel allows you to shoot effectively up to pretty good distances, and it's still pretty maneuverable. So I'm going to talk about this a lot in the video, but this is definitely an all-in-one rifle in my opinion. All right, moving on to the next question. What are some barrels you recommend when building an upper? This is a fantastic question. I actually have a tab specifically for barrels on the kit page. One of them I just talked about, which is X2 Dev Group's Trident barrel. This thing is a top of the line phenomenal barrel. I have a whole video coming out talking about and testing these. They are so amazing, very expensive though. So if you have a higher budget, can definitely recommend the Trident. If you're not trying to break the bank, Daniel Defense makes one of the most reputable barrels out there. I don't know a single person that doesn't like a Daniel Defense barrel, so if you're in the $200 or $300 range, a Daniel Defense is a phenomenal option. I can also recommend Criterion. I know that they make some really good barrels, and I've personally had really good luck with Ballistic Advantage. So for me, those are my top choices. Moving on to the next question. EOTech plus G33 or Razor HD 1-6 on a 14.5? This is a really good question. I really don't think you could go wrong with either option. The reason why I would tend to go with an EOTech and a G33 is because in this situation, you didn't say that there was going to be any type of offset red dot. And these days on my builds, if I have an LPVO, I really try to do an offset red dot. So though I do really love and recommend LPVOs, I think in this situation, I would do the EOTech with the G33. That way you're still pretty capable out to distance, but because it's a 14.5, I would imagine this gun would be used for 500 yards and in, and a G33 with an EOTech would be able to handle most of those situations. Moving on to the next question. One handgun for it all, what is it? I generally tend to go back to my Glock 45. It is concealable, though it's not the most comfortable. It still is concealable, and it's even better on my battle belt setup. It's just an absolutely phenomenal firearm. Glock 45 for me. Moving on, pros and cons of 43X over P365. So I actually have a full video on this, I'll link that above, but in essence, especially over the 365, if we're not talking about the X macro, for me overall it's the grip size. The grip on the 365 is just super slim and not the most comfortable for me. The grip on the 43X fits my hand really well, it's super comfortable, and I shoot really well with it. So that's why I carry the 43X over the 365. Moving on to the next question, and I believe he's talking about, for AR specifically, best barrel lengths. In my opinion and in my research, it is 12.5, 14.5, and 16. And I actually do talk about all of these in the video where I'm going over X2's new Trident barrels, and I'll try to link that one above as well. Go and watch that video and that should answer all of your questions. I personally love 12.5 so much. I think that's a phenomenal barrel length, and 16 obviously is amazing. Moving on to the next question, he's looking for a decent camera setup. So for a decent camera setup, you're going to want to be full frame. You could go Sony or Canon. I think they both make phenomenal products, and I use both cameras. There's no argument there. I unfortunately don't have a lot of experience with lower end camera stuff. Because I'm a professional videographer, I invested heavily into my camera gear, so I didn't really mess with mid-tier stuff. But if you're looking to spend like under $2,000, because that's kind of what I would recommend for a decent setup, I would get a Canon EOS R, a 50mm 1.4, and whatever stabilizer you can afford after that. Usually it's a DJI Ronin S or something like that. That would be a phenomenal setup for you. All right, moving on to the next question here. I'm thinking about starting my own channel. Do you have any recommendations? Yes, I do. I would start with scripting your videos. I think one of the first things that you should buy is a teleprompter and a teleprompter app. I script all of my videos. That allows me to cut out all the fluff, all the things that nobody cares about, and that ensures that my videos are valuable and straight to the point. You get so many YouTubers out there who don't script their videos, blabbing random stuff to the camera. They repeat themselves. It's honestly just hard to watch. Script your videos. Besides that, make sure you emphasize high quality audio. I can't tell you how many videos I click out of as soon as I hear that they have low quality audio. It's hard to listen to, it's half the visual experience, so you need to make sure that you invest in high quality audio. The next thing I would focus on is lighting and making sure that your environment looks nice. Buy a light and get the biggest softbox that you can. That softens the light, makes everything look really nice, and you can make iPhone footage look really high quality if you have the right lighting set up. So those are the things that I would do. That's what I did. That is why my videos look the way they do. All right, moving along, I got a couple more questions here. Law Tactical AR-IC, is it worth it? Good question. And what it does, if you don't know, it's a bolt carrier group conversion that allows you to shoot the firearm even if the stock is in the folded position, if you have a Law Tactical folder attached, like on this 300 Blackout. I personally don't know enough about it. I'm usually pretty hesitant on switching out the bolt carrier group with things that I don't know a lot about. The BCG is a really important part of your gun. So for me personally, even though the LawTac folder is really reliable, it still stresses me out just having one on there. And so adding this, even though you don't necessarily need it because I'm never going to shoot my gun with it folded, I don't really know if it's worth it. For me, I'd rather have a really reliable bolt carrier group rather than being able to shoot the gun in the folded position. Moving right on, Glock 17 or 45 and what gen? Personally love what they did with the Gen 5s, and it's got to be the Glock 45 for me. And that's a tough one because I genuinely love the 17. Honestly, wouldn't complain either way. The 45 though is, in my opinion, just the perfect hybrid. Favorite quad rail, and how can I be like you and start such a high quality channel? So for the start of your question, some of my favorite handguards are from Midwest Industries. I think they make a phenomenal quad rail I'm excited to talk about. There's actually one on my 300 Blackout build, and I've got another 14.5 upper where I have another Midwest Industries quad rail on it. Midwest Industries for me. And for the second part of your question, I did already answer it, so feel free to go back and find that. All right, moving on. How the do you afford such high volume builds? I know YouTube isn't paying that much. You would be right. YouTube is not paying me hardly anything at all. The only reason I'm able to do all of this is because of my channel sponsors. Optics Planet has been a huge contributor to the channel. I'm so grateful to them. And honestly, I reach out to as many companies as I can to see what they're willing to sponsor. And usually they're willing to send it over for a review. So it's really because of the channel that I'm able to do this. Moving on. What is your current current favorite AR lower. That's tough because there are a couple that I really do love. I have to say that the Radian Mod 1 is one of my all-time favorite lowers. That thing is absolutely amazing. It is full of features that I love. The ambient controls are amazing, but is extremely expensive. The next best one for me was probably Silencer Co's lower. I absolutely love that thing. The features that it comes with are very impressive, and it has these half ambient controls that are actually really good. And honestly, I really love X2 Dev Group's lower, so I'm going to be talking about this thing a little bit more when this full build drops, but those are probably my top 3. I know you asked for 1, but you got 3. Okay, moving on to the next question. Do you have a certain look you have in mind before making the build, whether it be a color combination and then putting the parts together? So that's a good question. Sometimes I find the build along the way, but in a general sense, I usually know what color combination I want to go, and I usually just build it off of inspiration that I see from other builds that I really like. Sometimes I can say it is an accident, but most of the time I would say I'm building based off of inspiration or just something that popped in my mind that I think would look good. Moving right along to the next question. What are your thoughts on rifle balance? I never see any gun tubers talk about weight and balance of a rifle. It seems like a lot of people load up the front end of the rifle with flashlights, IR devices, foregrips, etc., which causes the rifle to be heavy on the front. No one thinks about losing weight in the front or adding weight to the rear to make the rifle more stable or wieldy. This is a really great point, and it's something that I've actually been trying to incorporate better into my builds. I think balance really does matter. It's exhausting for me to hold my rifle up when it's fully kitted out with all the things that I have on it. The more that I train, the more I like lighter and well-balanced rifles. So that is something I'm personally trying to do better with. That's actually why I'm tending to lean towards titanium cans, being able to remove things that I'm not using at the time, like this bipod, for example. I like that it's quick detach. I may even be incorporating some type of quick detach for a flashlight, but you are 100% correct. The balance of the rifle really does matter, and it's something that I'm going to be incorporating more into the rifle builds that I have. Moving on to the next question. You ever thought about getting a Shadow Systems pistol? It seems like it comes with a lot of the upgrades that you would typically add to your Glocks. Yes, so I have looked into Shadow Systems. I personally like to build out my Glocks, even though yes, the Shadow System does come with a lot of the things that I do to mine anyway, but I'm just personally really picky with the stuff that I like, and I like to be able to customize exactly what I want. So Shadow Systems, though it does come with a lot of the upgrades, they're not exactly what I prefer. And if I have a bare bones Glock, I know that I can get it exactly how I want it. So that's why I tend to build out my Glocks rather than buying a Shadow Systems. Moving on to the next question here. New gun owner, I have secured my share of rifles. In your opinion, should someone move onto a handgun or a shotgun next for their arsenal? So for me, I would say a handgun. It's good to have a secondary. You can carry your rifle and a handgun at the same time, train with it, but I can think of a lot of uses for a shotgun. So it really just depends on what you want to do, but I think it's a really good idea to have a secondary like a handgun. All right, moving on to the next question. What's one shooting related skill and one non-shooting related skill you are focused on developing at the moment? This is a really good question. So one shooting related skill, I'm definitely trying to get better at long range shooting, so that's something I'm focusing on with this build and the bolt action rifles that I'm building out currently. And one non-related shooting skill, which I guess is just a skill in general, I'm really working on trying to get my body physically fit. I think that your physical fitness will directly correlate with how capable you are as an individual. So those are probably the two things that I'm working on right now the most. Next question. What are your thoughts on the Radian Ramjet Afterburner, and would you consider adding them to one of your builds? I am actually in the process of building out the ultimate P365 with the Radian Ramjet, and I will keep you posted on how much I like it. So far, I actually think I am going to like it. It's a pretty solid setup. The Ramjet is actually a really cool product. Moving on to the next question. How are the X2 Trident barrels coming along? I'm waiting to pull the trigger on those once they release the complete upper. So I have talked about throughout this video the Trident barrels. They are absolutely amazing, high quality, very, very good. Very expensive though. So if you have the money, absolutely can recommend. I'm still working on the review comparing the 12.5, 14.5, and 16, so stay tuned for that. I'm sorry I'm working on it, but I can tell you now it's worth the money. They're great barrels. All right, moving on to the next question. What's your recommendations on a suppressor for the Glock 43X MOS? Even though I don't personally recommend having the Glock 43X suppressed all the time, if you wanted to do it just for fun, I would personally go with the new Silencer Co. Spectre 9. I was able to take a look at this can at SHOT Show, and it is extremely light, very cool. It's multi-caliber. You can even use it on your 300 Blackout if you want, but the titanium makes the weight unbelievably light. And I've heard it's so light you don't even need a piston in order to run it on a handgun, which is really cool. You can just direct thread it and it doesn't have any issues cycling, which is just amazing. So definitely the Spectre 9 from Silencer Co. All right, I'm so sorry if I didn't get to your question. I tried to look through all of them to make sure I didn't miss any, but if I did, I'm so sorry. I do want to end with the importance of training and making sure that you're capable of defending innocent life. Go build the guns that make you happy, that you're effective with, train hard, and so you can be more prepared in defending innocent life. That is really what this channel is all about. As always, so much more to come to the channel. I will see you in the next one.